All right, folks, we're live. Let me check the feeds here. 1 second. Dun, dun, dun. It looks like, oh, yeah, I can see David's magnificent mustache. All right, folks, thanks for tuning in for another seminar series. It's Monday, so it is that time. And we're going to go into all things TikTok shop. So we brought in two of the hitters in the space, Scott Skurnick and one of my dear friends and an Austinite as well, David Baker from Beekman 802. And as always, our fearless leader. But Scott, before we get into it, let's get your bio real quick, and then David, let's do your elevator pitch, and then let's get into some content.
Sure, absolutely. So I'm an old soul when it comes to digital marketing. I actually got my start around 1995, before this was actually called digital marketing. But as far as background, I've made a career out of leading digital departments for Fortune 100, Fortune 500 companies. Currently serve as VP of Integrated Media for Ad Quadrant, and I oversee media, client partnerships, creative, and project management.
I love it. And in my research, is it correct you started a lot of your marketing career with Jose Cuervo in Mexico City,
Yeah,
CDMX?
yeah,
Okay, so I was right.
I'm
Very cool
extremely
story.
knowledgeable when it comes to tequila. Yeah.
I love that. Amazing. David, take it away.
Absolutely. So Scott, you stole the words out of my mouth, but I think I can't match the 1995 start. But I've been working in
It
this
just makes
space
me older than you, David.
No, that's fair. But I've been working in this space for like 15 years. Got my start working on political campaigns where there's ruthlessness within the digital space. I like to claim back when this was new media. That's what we used to call the internet. So got my start there, but have been up and down all sides, vendor, agency, brand. I spent a good chunk of time leading in-house media at L'Oreal, overseeing L'Oreal USA there. But went agency side, and then now am chief digital officer at Beekman 1802, which is a skincare brand focused on the power of goat milk and kindness.
Ooh, that's a bar. And then the big boss man taking up the third seat.
Oh, can I ask
go
a
ahead.
quick question?
Of course.
David, I'm just curious. 15 years ago, political campaigns, wasn't that the rise of the Democratic campaign, like essentially gaining ground because of their use of digital?
The Obama election, right?
That was the Obama. Yeah,
Obama election in 2008 was really the kickoff. Yeah, absolutely.
Wow, amazing. Here with greatness.
We can swap horror stories all the time.
Yeah, I was like, I mean,
not horror stories.
So many more questions, and I'm like holding my tongue. You know, I'm biting my tongue. I'm like, man, I don't want to get distracted.
Well, and it is interesting too to think about. We are in an election year and the power of TikTok, but that's for another show. Let's get into TikTok shops. I know both of you guys are running a lot. Well, TikTok shops in general, but I figure we kind of can just go walk through the order of operations, like getting started, optimizing, scaling, managing affiliates, etc., accessing, measuring value. Does that sound like a good run of show for you guys?
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, amazing. Okay, Scott, we'll start with you, and then David, and then Rashib. What do you think? Like, what do you see as the common characteristics for successful TikTok shops? Like, who should start one? Why should they start one, etc.?
Yeah, well, I think where you need to start really comes around conviction, because I think a lot has been there's a lot being said about TikTok shops, and I think there is this idea out there that it's easy, right? And that you're just going to go on the platform and you're going to put up a couple of videos and you're going to start seeing the dollars come rolling in. Yep. And while I will admit that there are a couple of brands or products that have actually done that, for the majority of brands or products out there, there's a lot more that has to happen in order to be successful. So where I would always start, it comes down to doing your research, right? Seeing if the industry that you are servicing, seeing what else is out there. Go on TikTok shops, do some research. There's a number of really good tools out there where you can get the GMV, for a particular brand, for a particular vertical, and see if there's an opportunity there. If there isn't, go a little bit deeper, right? Is it because you have a first mover's advantage, or is it because there's others who have got on there and tried and they've not been successful? And if they haven't been successful, again, you try to reverse engineer and figure out why and see if you can overcome those hurdles. But really, TikTok Shop for me, it's very synonymous, or it's what I saw in the late 90s, where there were small brands, right, that had first movers advantage because the larger brands, the incumbents, they had fears, right? And the fears may be a little bit different nowadays as to why some of the bigger brands haven't jumped into TikTok Shop. They will get there eventually, but there's a lot of white space right now for smaller brands to come in and really make a name for themselves.
I love that. How do you think about it, David?
I think you hit on a lot of great points. I think first I would look at where you are in your maturity curve as a brand. If you're already omni-channel, I think adding in another channel could make a lot of sense. If you're D2C only and you're debating, do I go to Amazon? I think you should consider TikTok Shop as another place to jump into next. But I do think it really comes down because it adds the complexity of your business. I think absolutely, I think there's a lot of white space in here. And I think what I'm actually seeing is a lot of the legacy brands recognize the lessons they missed out on with Amazon or with other options and jumping all in on TikTok Shops, which is really interesting to see, having been at a legacy beauty company, seeing brands go all in who normally this would have taken 6 years to get onto their radar. Yeah. So I do think it is that white space, but to your point, Scott, it depends on your conviction of what's going to happen with TikTok Shop here in the US, of whether you jump in and invest the resources there into a channel that may look very different in 9 months.
Yep.
Yeah, that's well said.
I think like one of the things that we're noticing, and I'm curious what you guys think about this, is that running TikTok Shop successfully is really different than running paid social. Yeah. And so like a bunch of our customers, like when I'm like thinking about what is the order of operations and how should you think about it, there are, customers of ours who were TikTok Shop native. So like, they started off by getting viral on TikTok Shop and doing extremely well there. And then there are customers of ours who are direct response native. And the flip over in either direction is at least what I'm seeing is like, is very different organizational DNA. So it's like the questions that you need to ask are different. The way you need to invest is different. The way you need to measure is everything about it is different. And so I guess what I'm curious about just organizationally, when you've seen people make that jump to investing, let's just say you're a direct response native to TikTok Shop native, what is the things that you've seen organizationally be true? Like internally in terms of investment level buy-in, personnel, how to run it. Do you run it with an agency? Do you run it internally? Just organizationally, how have people been thinking about it in order to set it up for odds of success?
Yeah, so as an agency, we will handle everything soup to nuts, right? Because there are multiple components, and the really interesting thing about TikTok Shops is the recipe for success continues to change because the rules behind TikTok Shop, and I don't mean the rules that TikTok Shop lays out, but just what got people to be successful even 3 months ago or 2 months ago or even a month ago are different than they are today, right? So I think there's some pillars for success, but I think foundationally, the most important thing is that the brand has what I would call a native footprint, or at least they're open to having a native footprint, because one of the pillars for success right now on TikTok Shops is the organic presence, right? It's having those organic ads or the organic videos that you can boost, right? And that's going to help propel the brand, and it's different than curated. The curated UGC ads that you may be doing for TikTok. These are just organic ads coming from the brand, which then you can put ad dollars behind. Then you have the affiliate creator space, right? And how are you going to go out and attract affiliates or creators and get them to serve as advocates for your brand? There's the whole live piece of it now, which is becoming more and more important. It started in Asia, where live is huge, and now you're seeing more emphasis being put behind it in the United States. And then there's the whole, I mentioned it, but the whole paid side of TikTok shops, right? So it's not, it's really hard to be successful just doing one component of it. You really need to find the right balance of all of those different components. And again, the mixture is going to be a little bit different depending on the brand and the brand's footprint and the brand's experience with TikTok.
Yeah, I think there's a little bit of nuance here too. I think you're absolutely right. The rules keep changing. The way I say it is the playbook is still being written of how to win on TikTok Shop. I think there are both. I think actually because TikTok does keep changing some of those rules. As they see success in other markets, they bring things over. I think there's some key pieces there. But I think to your question around how does that look like from a DR driven native brand getting into TikTok Shop, I think it depends on how well they are currently working as a marketing organization, because TikTok Shop does require you to really work well with an organic social mindset, a influencer mindset, a sampling mindset. And if you aren't already doing that as part of your D2C, that is new muscle work to do. If you're doing some of that, then you can flex into it. And if you can't, absolutely, you should look at bringing in support, whether that is freelance or agency, to do key components of that to, at the very least, proof of concept. To your point earlier, Scott, of do you have first mover advantage, or is this a Sisyphean feat trying to push that boulder up the hill? And what can we? And if you don't have the resources to do it, don't go all in on it until you can prove out that concept. I think a really great example of it that I hear all the time is I hear paid performance guys. I hear performance guys shooting the shit about their CACs all the time. And when you talk to what works in TikTok Shop, it's sampling. And the CAC rate or the commission rate on sampling and affiliate changes the game in CAC. And if you can't think through that differently, you don't have that muscle, you're not going to win.
That's real.
Sorry. So just attached to that question, what about organizational patience? So for better or for worse, the learning phase of a meta campaign is 50 events in 7 days, right? I mean, I know it's not that simple, but an organization that's used to feedback cycles on a weekly basis relative to what I've heard is a much longer feedback cycle, right? So, I mean, yeah, and David, I'm curious if you guys lived through that sort of, change in time scale of how you think about that. But I'm curious how that part of the equation came in.
I'm lucky and blessed that we are an omnichannel brand that has physical brick and mortar retail. So our organizational horizons does allow for a very different level of success windows. So I think TikTok is still very fast in that regard, in that world. But you're absolutely right. If you are pure play D2C only, it's a little harder. But I think the same goes true if you add in any additional marketplace, any additional channel. That is, you have to think about what is the time to succeed and the time to learn for that tactic.
Yeah.
And I do think on TikTok Shop that is a longer time horizon, because, to Scott's point, it's multifaceted. You have live, you have affiliate, you have organic, you have paid ads behind it. You have so much that has to go right for you to make it massive. But if a lot of those things are going well, you can continue at a decent clip without having sort of that viral moment. But I think it really depends on organizational complexity already. Yeah. I think if you are trying to make that leap, it's a tough battle. I can recognize that.
Yeah, and then the other really important. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, David.
No. I think the one last thing is also looking at your data, not just in a vacuum.
Yeah.
So I think in particular, what we're seeing is that a lot of the people who are exposed to TikTok Shop don't buy on TikTok Shop. Right. We see search volume increase on Amazon. We see search volume increase on .com. on Google. And so finding the right way to track that and see that lift, because if we're seeing, hey, we have a big hit, we see it spike in TikTok Shop, but we also see a similar spike in traffic on other platforms, that's a strong enough signal to identify that, okay, it's working. Now, can we control it in the same window? Can we put something in an iron in the fire and test it? That's harder. Sorry, go ahead, Scott.
Yeah, and then the other thing I just wanted to mention is the setup time for TikTok Shop is really going to depend on the products you're selling, because they have very strict policy guidelines, and depending on the industry that you're in, that's going to help determine which connector you want. There's a number of connectors out there, right, that are going to connect your store to TikTok Shop, and some of them are better for products that are a little bit more compliance heavy, right? And they can help you through the setup process, because setup process can be extremely cumbersome, and you need somebody. You know, the shop operations piece of TikTok Shops is it's pivotal. It's your table stakes, right? Without the shop operations, you can't do anything else, because you've got to make sure that you can get your products up and running, and that can take 30 days. It can take longer than 30 days, depending, again, if the types of products that you're selling. That's just something that a lot of brands don't take into consideration. They think it's as easy as signing up, uploading their products, and they're off to the races. And in some cases, it couldn't be further from the truth.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense, and that's really well said about. I have this thesis that unless you're the owner or the founder kind of thing, the only thing you really care about is making your boss happy. And this expansion channel, if it does take more resources and it's erratic in the payback as well as the time window, it's just a hard story, right? Where it's like, oh, I've just been posting TikToks all day trying to get traffic to our shop. And that's just like, if the org is not built, or you're not framing that story in a way that your manager or boss cares about, I can see how that would be a tough sell, especially like as the marketer, right? Like you want to work on things that you can, for lack of a better term, get credit for. Or it's like, oh my God, David, you're doing so much great work here, blah, blah, blah. And the erraticness of the TikTok Shop is like a feature and a bug. It's a feature because you can buy a lottery ticket and you hit, and oh my gosh, you get all this TikTok SEO, but also a bug when you're going, and I go to David and say, hey, we didn't make any money from TikTok Shops, but I just spent $5,000 this month on creating assets for it. That's a challenging conversation. So that's a really astute way to think about it.
I don't think you're wrong, Rapa. I'll just say one thing.
No, go for it.
Everything you just said, I heard 10 years ago when it came to why do we need Facebook? Why do we need to be posting on Facebook or a Facebook page? And so I think there is still that erraticism. It's a commerce channel, so it is different. But I think it's actually really interesting how history rhymes.
And David, to your point, I mean, social commerce isn't going anywhere, right? I mean, we are at the very beginning of social commerce. So whether it's TikTok Shops or another platform that's going to come in and fill the void, it's a new way of shopping, but it's here to stay. So you need to start building the muscle memory now, because if not, it is changing. It is evolving so quickly. So you do need to get in sooner rather than later, because there is a steeper learning curve to this, right? And it's not just about throwing ad dollars behind it and going out and finding a social commerce expert. You bring in the expert, but there's still a huge learning curve. So the sooner the better.
Yeah, Rabba, I wanted to ask you actually. I mean, you talk to a lot of people in the ecosystem.
Mm-hmm.
The people who are hesitant to start on TikTok Shops, what is the main reason that they're hesitant?
Twofold. Mostly kind of what David was alluding to with bandwidth, where they just aren't at a scale yet that they're not seeing diminishing returns on Meta enough to go explore a channel. But paradoxically, they're not succeeding enough on Meta to have the abundance to go. They're in like a very nice sweet spot of growing, but I don't need to leave this mine yet, because there's still gold here and it's really easy to get. So that's pretty much the main reason. And the secondary, well, I guess there's three reasons: secondary and tertiary. The second one is what Scott was alluding to with product, where they're just very strict on certain products that aren't even that sketchy. So I'm not talking about like alcohol or firearms, but just kind of like maybe adult products or things of that nature that aren't super sketchy, but TikTok just doesn't allow you to sell them. And then the third one is brand, where it's kind of this same pushback you get for Amazon almost, where it's like, I don't want the brand equity to take a hit because I'm on Amazon. But a lot of those people, to David's point, time is a flat circle, have realized, okay, you know what I'll do? I'll just release like a limited SKU on Amazon. That way I don't have this brand equity ding, but I also get in front of these people because all these other people are just taking my search volume. So Mad Rabbit was one of these people that I talked to last year where they were very, not against Amazon, but just like, oh my gosh, like, and then they started doing a bunch of search analysis and they're like, oh my gosh, there's so many people looking for this. And it wasn't even that much of a brand play as much as like, we have a really great product that has a ton of this search volume. Why are we not here? Let's go where people are. So those are kind of the three main reasons that most of the people that I know that have successful brands haven't really decided to greenlight TikTok shops. And then I guess the fourth one is, I just keep adding reasons, but the fourth one is also like sustainability risk. Like if I'm going to make a bet, it's kind of like, do you want to buy, a subscription service from a startup that doesn't have any money? Like, okay, this product's amazing, but is this product, if I'm going to commit to it, like a project management system or a music streaming service, like, okay, I'm going to commit to this. Are you going to be here in a year? And so they're worried about not necessarily TikTok going away, but to David's point of like, I'm going to build and systematize around this, and now it's going to change. Those are kind of the four reasons. But I mean, Scott, what do you see in your agency when people have hesitancy about wanting to take TikTok online or TikTok?
Well, I think, I think with TikTok being in the news, there's this hesitancy around whether TikTok's going to be around, whether it's 6 months or 12 months from now. But again, to my earlier point, you have to think about social commerce. You have to think about it, in a much wider context, because TikTok is just, they've really, I think they've revolutionized social commerce, right? And we know what comes after someone proves out a business model, right? We know it's going to be coming down the line 6 months from now. There's already, other competitors popping up in Asia, right? So again, you have to get beyond that fear and just think about this as a new channel, right? And it's a new part of your mix. But again, I can't stress this enough. It's TikTok shops, social commerce in general, it's tough. It is really, really, really tough. And there's so many other things to consider, right? Because at the end of the day, it's also, it comes down to math. And what I mean by that is, you need to bring in a certain number of affiliates or creators. You need to, and then you have a rate by which they're going to be accepting your invitations. Then you have a certain number of people who are going to request samples. The people that request samples, even though everybody who requests samples is supposed to put out, a video, not everybody does. And the videos that go live, how many of those are going to actually start producing GMV for you, right? So you have to understand all the metrics behind that so that you can then scale. And it's a little bit different. Yes, there's benchmark percentages for everything that I just laid out, but It's going to be a little bit different for each product, right? And those are just, again, it's a much steeper learning curve than just going live on Facebook or going live with Google Ads or just Pinterest. There's just so many other things to take into consideration here, and in a much larger investment.
Yeah, no, that's well said.
Yeah, if we want to move on, Rob, we can move on. But I think the one thing I think that you're saying, Scott, that I think is really critical is social commerce is here to stay.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say worst case scenario, 9 months from now, TikTok is no longer in the US. They don't divest. They choose to no longer be in the US. There is no TikTok shop. We're going to have other players. And do you know how they're building it? Exactly the way TikTok shop is. Yeah. So everyone who's in there right now has a leg up. Just like the metaphorical kids born in January are better at sports, have a more likely chance of getting to the NBA because they have more at bats, more reps.
September, right?
I was born in April, and I was a stud.
September is, I think, better at school, and January is better at sports because of the
What
cutoffs.
about?
But yeah,
So
absolutely.
what's April? I mean, because Rashib's CV is literally video game. It looks AI generated. That's so interesting. September is the best kids. Look at that.
I repeated a grade. I cheated.
Amazing. Yeah.
The cheat code is to do a grade a second time, and then you're ahead of everybody.
That's it. Yeah, exactly. That's exactly right. Or just do a couple Ivies, get it done. But David, you're coming with absolute incredible analogies, Greek mythology. Whew, you're moving, baby.
That one was just for you, Rabba.
Yeah, I caught the Sisyphusian. Don't sleep on me over here. Okay,
David. By the way, the thing that you and Scott both said was like other channels are. I mean, YouTube is already here, and guess who they highlighted? They highlighted BK Beauty, which was one of the top brands on TikTok shops. Like that's not a mistake, and so the carryover is already happening. So it's like the future's already here. It's just not evenly distributed type of thing. So like that, what you guys are saying is already true. So
yeah, amazing. As always, this is live, folks. John, thank you for the kind words. I'm pretty sure he's probably talking about the Beekman hat, but maybe I'll take the credit for the new chase. And Gabriel, what's up? If you guys do have any questions and you're watching live, pop it in the chat and we'll try and get to them. Okay, one quick question, and then we'll move on to optimizing and scaling the TikTok shop. Do you have any views, and we'll start with you, Scott, and then go to you, David, about just starting a TikTok shop but not posting organically? Does that make sense what I'm saying? Like, do I need to wait and build up my profile and then start a TikTok shop, or can I just start a TikTok shop and just, hope and pray and then eventually get to the organic content?
No, I mean, there are cold starts. And there are some ad products out there where you can just start throwing money behind the products that you've uploaded to your store, right? Now, whether that's something that we would recommend, that's a completely different story. But if your boss is telling you we need to get live on TikTok Shop, we need to do it tomorrow, and we don't have a ton of content, there's definitely ways to do it. But again, through our experience, I don't know if that's the best way to do it. But it is doable.
Okay, but it's not like a non-starter, but it's just not optimal.
Correct.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, no one's going to stop you fighting in the ring with one hand behind your back, Rabba.
Yep.
I told you guys, this kid's on it. What are you drinking over there? Jimmy, Christmas. Unbelievable, this guy. David, you guys run a super successful TikTok shop, super successful business. How do you think about it? Because you were talking a little bit about like that halo effect, which is awesome, but it's also like real but hard to like. You can tell quasi your boss that, but not the board that kind of stuff, right? Where it's just like it's there, but it's hard to put in a spreadsheet. But that was more just a comment, more so like, how are you guys thinking about scaling, optimizing, like going into TikTok? Are you guys using, what's your influencer strategy look like, your affiliates, your gifting? Because you guys are in that kind of really great place in terms of cheap to ship, margins aren't terrible, really awesome and very friendly to make content for. So give some people color into your strategy.
Yeah, so I think thankfully I work in a category where the board is actually asking me, how do we make this work? Because they saw what happened with Drunk Elephant.
I love that.
So thankfully the board is on board. But I think really it does come into for us, we looked at where is the best GMV opportunity.
Okay.
And so like there's a lot of things you could do on TikTok Shop, and it is an ecosystem, and I think they all fuel each other. But when we talked to BK Beauty, we talked to TikTok, we talked to multiple agencies, everyone was saying live was about 5% of GMV on the platform. And this was a while ago, it's changing. So we decided not to focus on live because that is resource intensive. That is
synchronous,
going to asynchronous. It really is not as scalable without that human factor. So we instead focused really heavily on sampling, gifting, and in that affiliate outreach.
Yeah.
And so for us, it really was working and finding the right way to do that at scale for the micro level, that army of affiliates, then bring in that next level at a target collaboration perspective in the platform of creators we've already worked with who know our brand, who know us, love us. Hey, this is the number one toner at Ulta. It's now available on TikTok Shop.
Yeah.
Giving them that right key brief and key hooks to be able to sell that. And then also that next level up, working with a handful of VIPs who we've worked with before on our e-com to see, can we use them to really jumpstart that? What's really interesting is whenever we have someone big post or someone who really loves us post, the number of people who then reach out to us saying, hey, I want to be a part of this. Because TikTok Shop is a pretty transparent platform, especially for creators, every creator can see every brand's GMV. So they know how much you sold, so they know how much they could possibly make. So that army of creators who are out there doing that long, like if I look at, I know a brand has made it on TikTok Shop when I see that Robo Live cycling around with a playlist happening and a clock in the background to prove that it is live. That is proof to me that that brand has made enough GMV that those people are going for it. Because they can look and say, cool, I can run that and my cost per hour of time is negligible versus the revenue I can get. So because affiliates can see that, we have to have a really strong, healthy relationship and ecosystem. I think that's where Scott may have been going as well. It's hard to have a completely cold start, because if you don't have any sales on that platform, that is where you're challenged on the affiliate outreach piece.
That's fascinating. Scott, anything else to add there?
Yeah, and once you have an established brand, it's much easier to bring on creators or affiliates, and you can start lowering the commission that you're going to pay to attract affiliates, right? But out of the gate, if you're, and again, this is why it really goes back to, do you understand your COGS, right? You have to understand the economics behind your product to see where your threshold of pain is, right? Because if it's a low threshold, then it's, there could very well be some startup costs here that you're not going to be open to investing in, right?
Right.
But once that flywheel is going and you've got the roster of creators or affiliates who are promoting your product, it's not only the videos they're going to be putting out, but they're also going to be going live for you. And we've seen that with some of our clients where we're seeing successful lives coming from the affiliates, not necessarily from the brands. So it once you get this going, it takes on a life of its own. But to get to that point, that there is a lot of work that has to go in, because again, you're sending out invites to creators, and if they've never heard of your brand before, then to what David said, it's like they got to think about their time, because they're getting inundated with direct messages from brands, right? Because we all see the same data, right? And unless you've got a CRM full of creators who you can just hit up on a dime, and you already have that track record, and they're going to promote your brands because there's the history there. You have to find a way to break through the noise, right? And that message that you send out in that invite, it has to be extremely compelling, and the commission that you're offering has to be extremely compelling, and they have to be able to go and look at the similar products that are out there, and just ensure that the time that they're going to invest in this is time well spent.
Yeah, it's kind of like the Peter principle. It's what you saw with the App Store with Apple, where the most money, and that's where the best developers are going to go. Same thing with social networks, like the most engagement on platforms, that's where creators are going to go. That's a really interesting tidbit.
Yeah, I think it's, as you guys were saying this, I can't help but think about, like, relative to affiliate in the past, it's actually quite a different business dynamic. Because like affiliate in the past is pretty black box. Like you don't have that much transparency about the total volume that any given brand is moving across their affiliate channels and things like that. And so it led to a totally different behavior, which was like, I'm just going to try to get my pixel onto as many different retailers. Like the affiliate game, I mean, anybody who knows anything about affiliate, it's like the game is actually, how do I put my pixel on? Like, how do I have my pixel be the last pixel, right? That's like the actual game to making money, which is very different than like, how do I pick the right brand to sell?
Yeah.
and actually worry about the sales as opposed to worrying about the credit. And so it's actually like a quite big shift in the business dynamics, which I think is like very interesting, but that has been caused because like of the choice of the transparency and the choice of the transaction being on platform, right? Because when it's an on-platform transaction, there's no gamification of credit.
There's no last click pixel. Yeah,
exactly. No, that's really well said. I like that line. Worry about the sale, not the credit. That's a bar. Super interesting. Okay, let's switch it up just for a second. Bring up the mood. David, what's the most expensive thing and weirdest thing you've ever bought on a TikTok shop?
Oh, that I've ever bought on a TikTok shop. I fell for the eye massager music thing that will give you a 15-minute temple and eye massage, eye sleeping mask.
Yes.
It was like, I think it was like $59.99, and then I had a TikTok shop coupon and they were running a deal, so I stacked that lower. We can talk about pricing pieces too later, but yeah. But I have seen $150 treadmills. I'm on a treadmill live like every morning.
Really?
It comes up in my feed. A guy selling a treadmill, yeah.
Either that's coming from Temu or treadmills got really cheap. Like that's when I was a kid.
No, it's on sale down to like $150, but like it's one of the like standing desk walking treadmills.
Interesting.
Scott must know the guy that I'm talking about.
Yeah, because those are like treadmill. I've seen those actually because we bought one for the Austin office and when I was at Triple Whale, and literally nobody used it. Scott, what's the weirdest or most expensive purchase from a TikTok shop?
I'd say the most useful, 100-foot hose that retracts after the water. When you turn the water on, again, I'm fortunate enough to actually have a garden, so it's a very compact hose that when you open up the hose, it expands to 100 feet. When you turn it off, it goes down. You can barely notice that it's there. So
that sounds like such a SkyMall / like Sharper Image purchase. I love it. The kids won't get that reference.
I also have that hose, Scott. I saw it on TikTok Shop, but I bought it on Amazon.
Good.
Interesting.
Should have bought it on TikTok Shop, David.
This was like last summer. So
why did you want the shipping? Why did you jump, or did you just go look cross for Amazon?
At that point, I didn't trust the product. I didn't trust that it was going to be a legitimate product, which was a big concern when they were first launching. Like I thought it was going to be drop shit. I was like, I like the concept. I like the idea. Let me go to the official seller of this on Amazon, a marketplace I trust. And I think that's why we see so many searches up when we have a moment on TikTok Shop, is because there are people who just are not comfortable putting their credit card into TikTok Shop. And they will shop at other locations.
I don't.
But they're still seeing those assets.
That's such a great point. Because I'm like that as well, where I don't like transacting on the social platforms. Ironically enough, like I'll go to Amazon or the main site to do it. That's really interesting. Okay, Rashib, you got to spill the beans. What's the weirdest or most expensive purchase from a TikTok shop?
Dude, this is the problem. I've actually purchased nothing on direct on platform shop.
What about Instagram then?
I always go direct to the brand site. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. I don't go to Amazon either, David.
Really?
A man after my own margin. I mean, heart.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like in the business of serving brands, and so I literally cannot get myself to buy on a different platform. I always go to the brand site.
I love it. We got a couple questions in here. Let's jump in. Matt from Twitters. We'd love to hear your processes look like. What is your outreach target? Do you do this internally, outsource, overseas, automated bot? Not super tracking. Matt, are you talking about affiliates maybe? Or like
talking about affiliates.
Yeah, you're talking about affiliates. Yeah.
Okay.
Do you want to go first?
You want to take it? Yeah, go first.
Yeah. So, the first thing that you have to really think about is how many samples do you want to send out per month, whether it's per day, per week, per month, because that's going to be the basis for again, because like I said before, it comes down to it's math, right? And it's percentages. Yes. So if you're going to tell me that your brand is only going to want to send out 10 samples per month, then I'm going to tell you, well, we can do targeted outreach, right? We don't need to do open invites and have everybody come in, because we want to be extremely selective of who we're going to go after, right? Because we only have a limited number of samples. If you're going to tell me that you're going to approve every single sample request that comes in, which could be in the thousands or the tens of thousands, then that completely changes things, right? And that's where you're going to say, okay, I'm going to go much broader. And there's different filters when you're looking for creators or affiliates. You can filter on the amount of GMV that they've generated. You can filter on followers, and there's other things as well. So it's really going to come down to understanding what your business need is, and again, what your threshold is. Because again, if you're going to tell me that you have the ability to send out tens of thousands of samples or thousands of samples, then I'm going to tell you that you need to send out thousands of invites per day to fill that need, right?
Got it.
So I think that's where you start. But David, I'd love to hear your point of view.
No, I think that's absolutely correct. Like, I think the reason I see that one guy doing the live on the treadmill every day is because he's like one of 10 people who got samples, because that is a heavy, expensive COG product. Yeah. We benefit from being a lightweight, easy to ship product, and in the skincare space, it's flooded. All of the beauty space is pretty well flooded and is a mature market within TikTok Shop. So we have to try and get out thousands of samples. So for us, that is looking at DM outreach to creators at scale. That is targeted outreach, and then as well, what we try to do is spend and invest some resources in getting some of the bigger names that we can, who have worked with us in the past or worked with us in other channels, to push there, because that will attract other people, because they'll see, hey, this person is going live. I know they're a big creator. They make a lot of money doing this. I can too. And that'll bring people back in. So I think that is a part of the flywheel aspect of this. So we have done, our target outreach generally tends to be internal, because those are the people we've worked with before. So Matt, I'm looking at the different pieces of your question. Our more DM outreach at scale, we work with an agency partner on, and they have teams on the ground doing it. We have not done anything in the bot space yet. I think that is intriguing and interesting to explore, but I know that that's ripe with some challenges. And as well, like to Scott's point, these creators are getting 30 different messages every day from brands plus. So how do you stand out in that inbox? I think is really critical. And so to your point earlier, that muscle, Rajab, of a DR only brand, you almost need to bring a CRM mindset into this. How do I break through the inbox? So I think it is a mix. I think that messaging matters. To Scott, your point, those percentages shift by industry, but also I think by, if you can adjust that initial sample request rate, that fundamentally changes the number of outreaches you have to do.
Sorry, as you were saying that, I can't help but wonder, what's your order of operations in terms of the sort of like micro scale versus the larger people who, do you do the larger ones first and then say like, hey, 1,000 other people on TikTok, you should want to be an affiliate with us because look at these other people who were affiliated with us and how well they did. And is that how you get that initial momentum to build, is by doing the targeted first and then the mass later? Or how do you think about the order of operations?
So I think it is, to use the cold start analogy a little bit, it is about how do you build that traction and how do you get that started? I think what's really critical, and we haven't really talked about this, so Scott, I'm curious your thoughts on it, but how much that traction and that flywheel is product-based, not brand-based. So we as a brand have we have 500 SKUs across our portfolio. On TikTok Shop, we have a much limited assortment. And we have 80% of our sales are coming through 3 products. And because people are seeing that GMV affiliates are seeing that GMV relationship by product. Consumers are more likely to trust and buy the product from the brand on the reviews in platform, not elsewhere. So for us, when we are trying to get a product to jumpstart there, it is about getting in one short moment a lot of creators to push through that. For us to coordinate that ends up being in that probably 10 to 20 creators. And that's how we started with our first product, was to do that and drive them there. I think in particular as well, we chose a product that is very visually, has a visual component to the storytelling. Because it is a very visual medium. It's a video forward platform. It is a storytelling medium. So for us, it really was, how can we get a visually payoff product in the hands of a bunch of people who will post all within a 24 to 96 hour window to push it first. That then got us enough traction to then go after in the targeted outreach and then go after in the open collaboration.
That makes a ton of sense.
Yeah.
I love that. Gabriel, Matt, thank you so much for the questions. To all our listeners out there, we're at $1.67 right now. Could be worse. Could be worse. Pop in any questions you have in there. Okay, so now the shop is cranking. You fully optimized it. I'll start with you, Scott, and then go to you, David. How are you assessing success? Are you looking at like the actual TikTok shop numbers? Are you looking at the whole marketing ecosystem? Are you, tracking by affiliate? Like, what do you see as like success in a TikTok shop? And then what do you see as like, hey, maybe the juice ain't worth the squeeze here, or I should put resources elsewhere?
Yeah, and we've talked about this a little bit, but it's going to depend on the maturity of the company that you're working for, right? So if you're a relatively advanced company and you're running advanced attribution, and you can run MMMs, right? And you can get a much better understanding of the effect that TikTok Shop is having on Amazon, or Amazon's having on other channels, or then that's fine and dandy. I mean, ultimately what you really want to look at is, at the end of the day, it comes down to GMV, right? How much GMV is your shop generating? And the GMV has to be a function of, again, all the other things that I've been talking about, really understanding that you need to understand your COGS, you need to understand your fixed expense, you need to understand everything that goes into getting the product to not only to the affiliate, but also to the end user. So you want to look at GMV, but you also want to look at, for the times when you're, the investment that you're making, what are you seeing on those other channels? Because again, it's Amazon's a black box. TikTok, the nice thing about TikTok Shop is, from a signal perspective, everything that's going to happen on that platform, you don't have to worry about sales that may have happened if they happen on the platform, you will see them, right? Now there's the effect of, yes, they started their journey on TikTok Shop, and then they went and they purchased on Amazon, they went and they purchased somewhere else. But you have to have that measurement in place beforehand, right? And whether you can be looking at MER, again, you can be running MMM studies, but really, I'd say the lowest common denominator is GMV, right? Because GMV, you can measure that versus what it's costing you to sell on the platform.
Yeah. No, that makes a ton of sense. And for the people following along at home, MMM is mixed media modeling, and then MER is media efficiency ratio.
Sorry.
No worries at all. I just want to bring everybody along. David, anything else to add there?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think the way we thought about it when we first dipped our toes into it was looking at, one, saying, was there enough traction there for us to continue investing? But then it was, are we seeing growth in percentage of GMV to our D2C shop month over month?
Yeah.
Is, for us, that represents not just seasonality trends, but also, are we seeing that growth?
Yep.
I think that was a key piece. As well, we started to look at how were our ads in TikTok Shop doing, or in TikTok doing. So one, in relation to drive to web versus drive to shop, seeing that growth, but also finally getting to a positive ROAS within the platform was really a healthy sign. And then lastly, to your point, Scott, I think on the MMM front, quick shout out to my friends over at Prescient.
Let's
I
go,
think
Mike.
they
True.
provide a lot of really great tools for
Yeah.
that in much more real time than your
Yeah.
traditional MMMs that do allow you to see that halo lift effect.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's really powerful to see that.
No, that makes a ton of sense, especially with Prescient now. I think they just launched their Amazon Halo as well. So you can start to see how these things impact the whole marketing ecosystem, because that's when you get to, a brand of Beekman size and kind of renown, marketing ecosystem gets really sophisticated really quickly. And having that ability to look across all those things. Rashib, I'll throw it over to you for the last question, closing thoughts. What you got for me?
I guess like my last question is, as you guys think about what's the end state for TikTok Shop, like what do you think a business should run at in terms of percent of mix that they should get? You were just saying percent of D2C is one of the key variables that you're measuring. When you think about the end state in terms of your total channel mix, what is the amount that you want to see coming from TikTok Shop relative to other channels, and why?
I'll start first because I'm going to take Scott's perennial answer this last hour of it depends. I think it really does depend on where your goals are. I mean, I've heard brands in this space famously say the best brand is money, and I know people who are looking for a strategic exit and building something that is sustainable to long-term growth. And so I think very different ends of that spectrum.
Yeah.
And so I do think it really depends. I think like we look at our channel mix at the end of the day as we grow, and we want to make certain we're keeping certain things in line. So we don't want it to grow too much. We'll take the money, absolutely, but I think it is something that we're really cognizant of, given where we're at.
I was not going to say it depends, by the way, David. But what I
that's why I had to get in.
Yeah, what I will definitely say, and having done this as long as I have, is diversification is the key, right? And
yes.
we've all either experienced or we've heard of the horror stories of a brand that has been overly reliant on whether it's organic, whether it's paid search, whether it's meta, right? And the saying is you're only one algorithmic change away from being out of business. Yeah. So when it comes to TikTok Shops, you don't want to. I mean, there will probably be brands that only sell on TikTok Shops at some point, and maybe there are right now. But again, you never want to be overly reliant on a single platform, because they're going to do what's best for the platform, not what's best for you or your brand, unless you happen to be spending enough where you can have an opinion, and they will listen to it. But there probably isn't a percentage right now because it is so new. But when you just have to look across your entire portfolio and say, okay, this is my comfort level, right? I don't want to have more than X percent going into any particular channel, because I don't want to put my business at risk. And I think that's really the way that you need to think about it. I don't think there isn't a right answer. So maybe that's kind of what you said, David, about it depends. It depends. But
you
yeah,
did
it depends.
but you didn't say it depends. So you win the prize for the day, Scott. I guess one last question, because we have 5 minutes and it'll be a quick one. David, do you have any favorite like TikTok shops or any brands that you use as a muse where they're really crushing it?
I think I take a look at a lot of stuff in the beauty space. I think is generally where my feeds me into. So I think a fantastic brand that I think everyone should look at is BK Beauty. I think there's a reason they're doing really well. I think part of that reason is because their products are complementary to a lot of other products. So I think that's a key piece. But directly in the skincare space, I think like Beauty of Joseon sunscreen is doing really, really well at talking to and really pushing that. And I think they really did a good job of strategically timing that push in the pre-sun season. So I'm still seeing a lot of people talking to it, but I think they made certain to build that wave early, probably about 3 to 4 months before their peak. So that before the seasonality peak, because most FPF sales happen, you buy your sunscreen before Memorial Day, and you generally don't buy too many more until after Labor Day. And so I think like that they really timed that really nicely. And I think they do a good job of finding the right ways to talk to it, both in the lightweight textures, the Korean beauty.
Yeah.
I see a lot of really good stuff out of them.
Yeah, great picks. What about you, Scott? Any favorites?
I don't necessarily have any favorites, but I do love going through the live feeds and just seeing the different personalities and really seeing how the people that are conducting the lives just interact with the brand, and it really goes back to the days of whether it's QVC or Home Shopping Network, right? And you would see the different personalities. Again, if you're old enough, and you see the different personalities and the people that can sell versus the people that can't sell, right? And it really comes down to choosing the right people that can represent your brand, if they're not internal to the brand, but if they're external, right? Because there is such a large disparity or gap between the people who can sell and the people who can't sell.
Yes.
And at the end of the day, these, if they're very animated and they believe in the brand, it comes through in while you're watching them, right? And the beauty about TikTok shops is, it's kind of akin to whether you're going, when you're checking out at Sephora or you're checking out at the grocery store, right? And there's something there that you weren't really planning on buying, but it caught your attention for some reason. And that's kind of where TikTok Shops is right now, where you're going through you're just scrolling through, and then all of a sudden, it's impulse, right? And that's why a lot of the brands that are doing well, there's a price point that is much more attractive as it stands right now. I think that's definitely starting to change. As we've mentioned, there's treadmills and there's other products over $100, but it really is this impulse, and the impulse comes down to not only the product, but the person that's promoting the product, right? It's the thumb stop. If they can catch your attention for a couple of seconds, then there's probably a pretty good chance you can sell them.
Yeah, I love that. Shib, any favorites or no? You don't buy on TikTok shops a year?
No, I browse all the time. I mean, this is my I mean, I'm gonna steal from David. I like BK Beauty and I like Grunanda. Those are the two that I look at, mostly because I feel like they were early and they were sort of like helping to show a lot of people how to do it, basically, which I kind of appreciate. And so you get also like a very wide spread of different, like you were saying, different characters and different ways that people are doing it, which I really appreciate. And I mean, I don't know if either of you guys have read Amp It Up, Frank Slootman's book, but basically it's like the buyer of anything, whether it's like you talking to somebody on your team or whatever it is, the maximum excitement that they are going to have is literally how excited you are. So it's like, it'll never be more excited than you are when you're pitching something. And so it's like, if you don't like amp up how excited you are about whatever it is that whether it's an idea or, somebody you want to hire or a product, it's like, you have to be maximally excited because everybody else is going to be some level of excitement under you, which I think is like an interesting thing that we're getting to see now on TikTok Shop, because the incentives are aligned back to the whole measurement thing, right? It's like, now that you can measure, the incentive is aligned to be more excited. And so I think it'll actually produce more better content too. Yeah,
no, it's really interesting. The discovery of being able to see how much money people make, and then I can decide whether to put my talents there or not. I was so bullish on live shopping. I still am, but I thought it was going to take off way more, but I think it might be the same thing as like QR codes. I was so bullish on QR codes, and they're just now starting to proliferate in the States. So I think there's just like Southeast Asia, Asia and the States are just, they're so orthogonal. Like they're not the same cultures, and it's but technically
it's not the same culture, but I think, Scott, to your point, like there is an HSN QVC element to this. I do think that will persist and I think pull through. I think TikTok as well is investing the dollars, and whether they are putting their thumb on the scale of lives or not, I think they have a vested interest of driving that, because I think their platform is much better situated for that than any potential competitors down the line. So I think we will continue to see lives, but I think it's going to be a very different style than your hour-long QVC show. I think it's going to be either it's that one person who can sell really well, selling all day, every day, or it's an army of people who are going to sell for 10 minutes every day.
No.
Yeah, and we just had our first $1 million stream.
Yeah.
See, look at that. Hitters, baby, hitters. One ticket, one stream. Love to hear about it. Scott, how can people get more involved with you? Are you guys taking more clients? How can they follow you? This time's yours, my friend.
Yeah, absolutely. So as I mentioned earlier, we do everything from shop operations through affiliate recruitment, through running ads. So we're a full service shop. We placed an early bet on TikTok Shop, and it's a bet that's definitely paid off. So yeah, if you're looking for help getting your shop going, Ad Quadrant, we can definitely help you out.
I love it. Mr. Baker, one of my favorite humans. Tell people how they can buy more Beekman. How can they follow you? This time's yours.
Yeah. So you can follow me at DataDavidATX on Twitter. And you can buy Beekman at beekman1802.com on the TikTok shop, on Amazon and at Ulta. I highly recommend you get your start with our milkshake toner. It's the #1 toner at Ulta. You shake it to activate. And it's a beautiful fine mist spray that just sprays all over your face.
Did I just turn into a TikTok live stream? What happened here?
Absolutely.
Yeah, this better be shoppable. If this is not,
and just wait. If you wait a couple more days, you might be able to find this on a great deal.
Oh, wow. Oh, spilling some tea here. Amazing.
David, I thought you were going to drop a coupon code right there. I was waiting for the coupon code. Yeah.
Go to Beekman1802/David to get your deal today. Oh, that's amazing. Rashib, how can people follow you? The Whiteboard Wednesdays, you're doing a bunch of incredible content. Let the people know.
I'm just Rishabh M. Jain on LinkedIn and on Twitter. So please find me there. I promise I'm doing my absolute best to help share whatever I've learned about company building and whatever Rabah is teaching me about marketing.
His Whiteboard Wednesdays are all on YouTube now. And if you want to level up, it's like a Maven course in itself. It's a really good one. I'm not just saying this because that man signs my checks. It's really good stuff there. What else we got for you? We got a great newsletter, firmatcommerce.com. Go check it out. The Geometry of Growth goes out every Monday. Would love to have you on that. And then we are also firmatcommerce.com. You want to make the money printer go burr, make funnels like you create ads, go book a demo today. And Scott, David, thank you guys so much for coming on. This was really fun. I'm a bit ignorant to TikTok shops, and you guys illuminated me on a lot of frameworks, processes. The crowd was great. We had the record for seminar series, almost 200 viewers. So not horrible, pretty awesome. Everybody tunes in for the Beekman Stash though. But thank you so much. Sorry, we're 4 minutes over. Folks, thank you so much for tuning in. Go follow Rashib, go buy some Beekman, go hire Scott, and we'll see you next week for another seminar series. Bye-bye.
Thank you guys. Bye.